Chapter 15. Further up and further in. "No, O warlike kings," said Imeth, "and you, O ladies, whose beauty illuminates the universe, that I am Emeth, the seventh son of Harpatar in the city of Tishban, westward beyond the desert. I came lately to Narnia with 29 others to the under the command of Rishda Tarkan. Now, when I first heard that we should march upon Narnia, I rejoiced, for I had heard many things of your land and desired greatly to meet you in battle. But when I found out that we were to go in disguised as merchants, which is a shameful dress for a warrior and a son of a Tarkan, and to work by lies and trickery, then my joy departed from me. At most of all, when I found we must wait upon a monkey, and when it began to be said that Tosh and Aslan were one, then the world became dark in my eyes. For always since I was a boy, I have served Tosh, and my great desire was to know more of him, if it might be, to look upon his face. But the name of Aslan was hateful to me. And as you have seen, we are called together outside the straw-footed hovel night after night, and the fire was kindled, and the ape brought forth in the hovel, out of the hovel, something upon 4 legs that I could not well see. And the people and the beasts bowed down and did honor to it. But I thought, the Tarkan is deceived by the ape, for this thing that comes out of the stable is neither Tosh nor any other god. But when I watched the Tarkan's face and marked every word that he said to the monkey, then I changed my mind, for I saw the Tarkan did not believe in it himself. And then I understood that he did not believe in Tosh at all, for if he had, how could he dare to have mocked him? When I understood this, a great rage fell upon me. I wondered that the true Tosh did not strike down both the monkey and the Tarkan with fire from heaven. Nevertheless, I hid my anger and held my tongue and waited to see how it would end. But last night, as some of you know, the monkey brought not forth the yellow thing, but said that all who desired to look upon Toshlan, for they had now mixed the 2 words to pretend they were all one, must pass by one into the hovel. And I said to myself, doubtless this is some other deception. But when the cat had followed them in and had come out again in a madness of terror, then I said to myself, surely the true Tosh, whom they called on without knowledge or belief, has now come among us and will avenge himself. And though my heart was turned into water inside of me because of the greatness and terror of Tosh, yet my desire was stronger than my fear. And I put my face upon my knees to stay them from trembling, and on my teeth that they should not chatter. And I resolved to look upon the face of Tosh, though he should slay me. So I offered myself to go into the hovel, and the Tarkan thought unwillingly, let me go. As soon as I had gone in the door, that first wonder was that I found myself in this great sunlight, as we are all now. Though through the inside of the hovel, it had looked dark from the outside. But I had no time to marvel at this, for immediately I was forced to fight for my head against one of our own men. As soon as I saw him, I understood that the monkey and the Tarkan had set him there to slay any who came in if they were not in their secrets, so that this man, who was also a liar and a mocker and no true servant of Tosh, I had the better will to fight him, and having slain the villain, I cast him out behind me through the door. Then I looked about me, and I saw sky and wide lands, smelled the sweetness, and I said, by the gods, this is a pleasant place. It may be that I have come into the country of Tosh. And I began to journey into the strange country and to seek him. So I went over much grass and many flowers, and among all kinds of wholesome and delectable trees, till lo, in a narrow valley between 2 rocks, there came to me a great lion. The speed of him, which was like an ostrich, and his size was an elephant's, and his hair was pure gold, and the brightness of his eyes like gold that is liquid from the furnace. He was more terrible than the flaming mountain of Lagor. And in beauty, he surpassed all that this world has, as a rose in bloom surpasses the dust in the desert. Then I fell at his feet and thought, surely this is the hour of death, for the lion, who is worthy of all honor, will know that I have served Tosh all my days and not him. Nevertheless, it is better to see the lion and die than to be a Tisroc for the world and live and not have seen him. But the glorious one bent down his head and touched my forehead with his tongue and said, Son, thou art welcome. But the servant of Tosh, son, thou art welcome. But I said, alas, Lord, I am no son of thine, but a servant of Tosh. He answered, Child, all the service thou hast done to Tosh, I account as service done to me. Then, by reasons of my great desire for wisdom and understanding, I overcame my fear and questioned the glorious one and said, Lord, is it true, then, as the ape said, that thou and Tosh are one? The lion growled so that the earth shook, but his wrath was not against me, and he said, it is false, not because he and I are one, but because we are opposites. I take to me the services which thou hast done to him. For I and he are of such different kinds that no service which is vile can be done to me, and none which is not vile can be done to him. Therefore, if any man swear by Tosh and keep his oath for the oath's sake, it is by me that he has truly sworn, though he know it not, and it is I who will reward him. And if any man who do cruelty in my name, then though he says the name of Ashlan, it is Tosh who he serves, and by Tosh his deed is accepted. Dost thou understand, child? I said, Lord, thou knowest how much I understand. But I said also, for the truth constrained me, yet I have been seeking Tosh all my days. Beloved, said the glorious one, unless thy desire had been for me, thou wouldst not have sought so long and so truly. For all find what they truly seek. One of the things I heard in church today was, we become what we behold. What are you looking at and spending time on and staring into deeply because you desire it? That's kind of what this is saying, isn't it? Then he breathed on me and took away the trembling from my limbs and caused me to stand upon my feet. And after that, he said, not much, but that we should meet again, and I must go further up and further in. Then he turned him about in a storm, and a flurry of gold was gone suddenly. And since then, O kings and ladies, I have been wandering to find him, and my happiness is so great that it even weakens me like a wound. And this, it is the marvel of marvels that he called me beloved, me who am but as a dog. Eh? What is that? Said one of the dogs. That's the dog that was listening. Oh, and look what's on the other side. That'll come up in a minute. Sir, said Emma, it is but a fashion of speech which we have in colormen. Well, I can't say it's one I like very much, said the dog. He doesn't mean any harm, said the older dog. After all, we call our puppies boys when they don't behave properly. So we do, said the first dog, or girls. Shh, said the old dog. That's not a nice word to use. Remember where you are. Look, said Jill suddenly. Someone was coming rather timidly to meet them. A graceful creature on 4 feet, all silvery gray. And they stared at him for a whole 10 seconds before 5 or 6 voices said all at once, why, it's old Puzzle. They had never seen him in daylight with out the lion skin with the lion skin off, and it made an extraordinary difference. He was himself now a beautiful donkey with such a soft gray coat and such a gentle, honest face that if you had seen him, you would have done just what Jill and Lucy did, rushed forward and put your arms around his neck and kissed his nose and stroked his ears. When they asked him where he'd been, he said he had come in at the door along with all the other creatures, but he had, well, to tell the truth, he had been keeping out of their way as much as he could and out of Aslan's way. For the sight of the real lion made him so ashamed of all the nonsense about dressing up in a lion skin that he did not know how to look anyone in the face. But when he saw all of his friends were going away westward, and after all, he had a mouthful or so of grass, and I've never tasted such good grass in my life, said Puzzle. He plucked up his courage and followed. But what'll I do if I really have to meet Aslan? I'm sure I don't know, he added. You'll find it will be all right when you really do, said Queen Lucy. They all went forward together, always westward, for it seemed to be the direction Aslan had meant when he cried out, further up and further in. Many other creatures were slowly moving the same way, but the grassy country was very wide and there was no crowding. It still seemed to be very early in the morning. Freshness was in the air. They kept on stopping to look around and took beauty behind them, partly because it was so beautiful, but partly also because there was something about it which they could not understand. I don't know, Peter said Lucy. Where is this, do you suppose? I don't know, said the High King. It reminds me of somewhere, but I can't give it a name. Could it be somewhere we once stayed for a holiday when we were very, very small? It would have been a jolly good holiday, said Eustace. I bet there isn't a country like this anywhere in our world. Look at the colors. You couldn't get a blue like that blue on those mountains in our world. Is it not Aslan's country, said Tyrion. Not like Aslan's country on top of the mountain beyond the eastern end of the world, said Jill. I've been there. If you ask me, said Edmund, it's like somewhere in the Narnian world. Look at those mountains ahead and the big ice mountains beyond them. Surely they're rather like the mountains we used to see from Narnia, the ones up westward beyond the waterfall. Yes, so they are, said Peter, only these are bigger. I don't think those ones are so very like anything in Narnia, said Lucy. But look there, she pointed southward to their left, and everyone stopped and turned to look. Those hills, said Lucy, the nicely woody ones and all the blue was behind them, aren't they very like the southern border of Narnia? Like, cried Edmund after a moment's silence. Why, they're exactly like. Look, there's Mount Pyre with its forked head, and there's the pass into Archenland and everything. And yet, they're not like, said Lucy. They're different. They have more colors on them, and they look farther away than I remembered. And they're more, I don't know, more like the real thing, said the Lord Diggory softly. Suddenly, Farsight the eagle spread his wings, soared 30 or 40 feet up into the air, circled round, and then alighted on the ground. Kings and queens, he cried, we have all been blind. We are only beginning to see where we are. From up here, I've seen it all. Eitzenmer, Beaver's Dam, the great river Carparavel, still shining on the edge of the eastern sea. Narnia is not dead. This is Narnia. But how can it be, said Peter, for Aslan told us, the older ones, that we should never return to Narnia, and here we are. Yes, said Eustace, and we saw it all destroyed and the sun put out. It's all so different, said Lucy. The eagle's right, said Lord Diggory. Listen, Peter, when Aslan said you could never go back to Narnia, he meant you could never go back to the Narnia you were thinking of. But that was not the real Narnia. That had a beginning and an end. It was only a shadow or a copy of the real Narnia, which has always been here and will always be here, just as our own world. England and all is only a shadow or a copy of something in Aslan's real world. You need not mourn over Narnia. Lucy, all of the old Narnia that mattered, all the dear creatures have been drawn into the real Narnia through the door. And of course it is different as a real thing from a shadow or as a waking life from a dream. His voice stirred everyone like a trumpet as he spoke these words, but when he added under his breath, it's all in Plato. It's all in Plato. Bless me. What do they teach these kids at school? The older ones laughed. It was exactly so, like the sort of thing they had learned him say long ago in that other world where he was heard in gray instead of golden. He knew what they were laughing at and joined in the laugh himself, but very quickly they all became grave once again, for as you know, there's a kind of happiness and wonder that makes you serious. It is too good to waste on jokes. It's hard to explain how the sunlit land was different from the old Narnia, or would be, as it would be to tell you how the fruits of another country taste. Perhaps you will get some idea of it if you think like this. You may have been in a room in which there was a window that looked out onto a lovely bay of the sea or a green valley that wound its way among the mountains. And in the wall of the room, opposite the window, there may have been a looking glass. And as you turned away from the window, you suddenly caught sight of the sea or that valley all over again in the looking glass. And the sea in the mirror or the valley in the mirror were in one sense just the same as the real ones. And yet at the same time, they were somehow different, deeper, and more wonderful, more like places in a story you would never have heard, but very much want to know. The difference between the old Narnia and the new Narnia was like that. The new one was a deeper country. Every rock and flower and blade of grass looked as if it meant more. I can't describe it any better than that. If you ever get there, you'll know what I mean. It was the unicorn who summed up what everyone was feeling. He stamped his right forehoof on the ground and neighed, and then cried, I have come home at last. This is the real country, my real country. I belong here. This is the land I've been looking for all my life, though I never knew it until now. The reason why we love the old Narnia is that it sometimes looked a little like this. Bree, come further up and come further in. He shook his mane and sprang forward into a great gallop, a unicorn gallop, which in our world would have carried him out of sight in a few moments. But now a most strange thing happened. Everyone else began to run. They found, to their astonishment, they could keep up with him. Not only the dogs and the humans, but even fat little Puzzle and short-legged Podge and the dwarf. The air flew in their faces as if it were driving fast. They were driving fast in a car without a windscreen. The country flew past them as if they were seeing it from the windows of an express train. Faster and faster they raced, but no one got hot or tired or out of breath. And that's the end of chapter 15.